A nuclear power plant is leaking radiation near New York City. Google's building a secret radio transmitter in the middle of the desert, and secret societies could be trying to stop Donald Trump. This is SkyWatchTV for Wednesday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, a Palestinian terrorist killed an American citizen and wounded 10 others in the Israeli city of Jaffa Tuesday night. Victim, 29-year-old Taylor Allen Force, an Army combat veteran, grad student at Vanderbilt University. He was in Israel with a group from Vanderbilt. The terrorist was praised on the Palestinian Authority's official television station. He's identified as 22-year-old Bashar Masala, shot dead by Israeli police after a brief chase. Spokesman for Hamas and Islamic Jihad also praised Masala as a martyr. The attack took place less than a quarter mile from an event where U.S. Vice President Joe Biden was meeting with former Israeli President Shimon Peres. Biden condemned the attack, said the U.S. has total, unvarnished commitment to the security of Israel. Hamas tunnel diggers refusing to go underground. A number of tunnels between the Gaza Strip and Israel have collapsed mysteriously in recent weeks. Another cave-in last Thursday killed a 31-year-old Palestinian. 5 others are still missing. Members of the Al-Qassam brigades, and you remember we told you about their leader being executed by Hamas leadership recently, reportedly refusing orders to go back in and start digging. Some of them believe, apparently, that Israel is using high-tech equipment to detect and destroy the tunnels from above. Apparently, disobeying these orders is a big deal in Hamas. They do not take disobedience lightly. And Israeli intelligence has apparently convinced Russia's President Vladimir Putin to put a hold on sale of anti-aircraft missiles to Iran. Israel passed along evidence recently that Russian weapons were ending up in the hands of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Arab news sources reporting that Putin has frozen the transfer of the S-300 surface-to-air missile system to Tehran. But Saudi Arabia ready to send missiles to the rebels inside Syria. Defense Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman behind this move, ready to send anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Syrian rebels in an effort to counter Syria's assistance, or Russia's assistance to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The anti-tank missiles reportedly capable of taking out Russia's top-line T-90 battle tank, which Russia has just shipped to the Syrian army. Now, most analysts looking at this think that the Saudis are just bluffing. They don't really intend to send these missiles to the rebels, just trying to get the attention of Russia and the United States. They want to be taken seriously in the negotiations on how to end the fighting in Syria and perhaps drive a wedge between Iran on the one side and Russia and the United States on the other. However, at least one news source quotes a high-ranking source in Saudi Arabia as saying the decision to arm the rebels is a done deal. This, in my view, is a big risk. Arming rebels with weapons capable of taking down Russian aircraft and taking out Russian tanks risks blowing up this conflict into something much bigger. And speaking of that, on the other side of the world, the U.S. has sent a carrier strike group into the South China Sea. The John C. Stennis, accompanied by 2 destroyers and 2 cruisers, in waters claimed by China, but also claimed by Vietnam, the Sultanate of Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Taiwan. The head of U.S. Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, says China is militarizing the area. Quote, "You'd have to believe in a flat earth to believe otherwise." Now back to Vice President Biden. Some observers believe that his tour of the Middle East, which kicked off yesterday in Israel, meetings with Shimon Peres and Benjamin Netanyahu, present a financial and a defensive aid package that had been promised by the Obama administration, may also be the launch of Biden's campaign for president. Sources in Jerusalem report that Israeli officials in charge of staging Biden's visit were told by Biden's staff to treat the vice president as though he were a candidate in the upcoming election. This in spite of past denials from Biden that he had no intention to run. President Obama reportedly thinking about going to the United Nations to force Israel to divide Jerusalem. The Wall Street Journal reporting at the end of last week that the president wants to revive peace talks between Israel and the Palestinian Authority and use the UN Security Council to compel Israel to the negotiating table. This would change a longstanding U.S. policy of not letting the United Nations interfere, but letting the two sides, Israel and the Palestinian Authority, work out their differences between them. The Wall Street Journal speculates that the president could launch this initiative with a speech at the opening session of the United Nations General Assembly in the fall. And the proposal, according to the Wall Street Journal, would be based on the pre-1967 boundaries. Would include a freeze on settlement activity in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem, but would also call on the Palestinians to recognize Israel as a Jewish state and end claims on a right of return for refugees. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected all such demands in the past. Now, if turnabout is fair play, then Netanyahu is getting some well-deserved payback. A year after President Obama snubbed Netanyahu during a visit to the United States when he addressed Congress, Benjamin Netanyahu is turning down an offer from the White House to visit with the president. The White House claims it only heard of this cancellation when it was reported on the news. This in spite of denials from the Israeli ambassador to the United States. Netanyahu was expected to travel to the U.S. later this month for the annual meeting of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which is a very powerful lobbying group in Washington, D.C. Some believe the most powerful lobbying group in Washington, D.C. But President Obama is traveling during the meeting, so offered some alternative dates. And Netanyahu thought about it and apparently decided not to go. Netanyahu is also not attending the AIPAC meeting. Several candidates for president will be giving speeches at that meeting, and Netanyahu says he doesn't want to get involved in the politics of the American election. Speaking of the American election, reports are growing that elites in the Republican Party are trying to come up with a way to stop Donald Trump at all costs. Trump is still leading GOP presidential candidates in electoral delegates. Ted Cruz is the only one close at the moment. Party leaders really don't like either one of these guys. Now, if Trump takes the primaries, the upcoming primaries in Florida and Ohio, where he is currently leading in the polls, ahead of home state candidates John Kasich of Ohio and Marco Rubio of Florida, mathematically speaking, Mr. Trump will essentially have the nomination locked up. The only path to blocking him at this point would be a so-called brokered convention, where the party's nominee is determined in a smoke-filled room, basically. 4 years ago, however, party bosses changed the rules for getting nominees onto a nominating ballot. They put in a rule requiring that nominees had to have won at least 8 state primaries to qualify for a spot on the nominating ballot. Trump is the only one who qualifies at this point, although Senator Cruz has won 7 primaries, may get that 8th between now and the July convention. Marco Rubio only has 1, that was the Minnesota caucus, and if he loses Florida, which appears likely at this point, his campaign is basically done. So it doesn't look like either of the establishment candidates, Senator Rubio or Governor Kasich, will qualify to get on the nominating ballot at the convention in July. The funny thing is that the rule was put in place in 2012 to keep Ron Paul off the ballot because the party establishment didn't like him. And now the rules are biting them back. Over the weekend, party leaders held a secret meeting at which the main topic of conversation was how to stop Trump. Billionaires, tech CEOs, and top party leaders gathered at a privately owned island off the coast of Georgia. Well, not Jekyll Island, that's another one. This one is called Sea Island, apparently between A Island and B Island and D Island. But the American Enterprise Institute holds an annual world forum, and this year Sea Island was the location. The main topic on the agenda was derailing Trump's campaign. Now, guests at this meeting included Apple CEO Tim Cook, Google co-founder Larry Page, Tesla Motors chief Elon Musk, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, House Speaker Paul Ryan, political guru Karl Rove, and other well-connected and well-to-do, including Arthur Sulzberger, the publisher of the New York Times. And this leads to an interesting story. Last week, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich made a really fascinating comment on Fox News when trying to explain why party leaders, Republican Party leaders, really seem to dislike Donald Trump.
And now they're faced with a very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot imagine sharing. Well, because he's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He's uncontrollable. He hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society.
Now, Gingrich may have been speaking metaphorically, just using a figure of speech to illustrate the level of distaste party leaders have for Donald Trump. But on the other hand, Gingrich was in a position to know. And of course, recently we saw the passing of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, and it's come out through the Washington Post that when Mr. Scalia died at that resort ranch in Texas, he was in the company of a couple of high-ranking officials in a group called the International Order of St. Hubertus, which is a knightly order founded in the late 17th century by a member of the Habsburg royal family in what was then the Kingdom of Bohemia. And the American version, the American chapter of the International Order of St. Hubertus, the patron saint of hunters, was founded in 1966 in San Francisco at the Bohemian Club. If that sounds familiar, it should. That's the group that sponsors the annual July retreat for the elite at the Bohemian Grove in California, where they hold an annual ceremony, the cremation of care, in front of a 30-foot tall owl statue called Moloch, which of course is the Canaanite deity that required child sacrifice. A nuclear power plant in New York is leaking radiation into groundwater, the Indian Point nuclear plant, just 25 miles north of New York City. A recent investigation called for by Governor Andrew Cuomo found an 80% increase in the levels of radioactive tritium in groundwater than a previous samples had detected. Governor Cuomo says the investigation shows the plant can no longer be operated safely. New York Times reporting that groundwater radiation is 740 times higher than the federal limit. And Google building a big radio transmitter in the New Mexico desert at Spaceport America, just outside the city of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. It's served by lots and lots of fiber optic cables, which Google is apparently putting to good use, but for what we don't exactly know. Based on documents filed with the FCC, it looks like a giant Wi-Fi system. The transmitter they're building is going to operate in the 2.5 and 5.8 gigahertz bands, which are normally used by communications devices. Some analysts think it may be part of a Google project to deliver internet by drone. Others, mind control. Coming up in July, the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference. We talked about that last fall quite a bit. We let you know a couple of weeks ago that the slots, registrations are sold out for the conference, but you can still watch the presentations from the comfort of your own living room or wherever you have a Wi-Fi connection. The live stream will be available again this year, but there's a change where you can see not just the main ballroom presentations, but presentations in the largest breakout room, the Aspen Room. So there are 3 packages available now, the Aspen Room presentations, the main ballroom presentations, or both at a $20 discount. And this year, the videos of the presentations will be available for 6 weeks. 6 weeks after the conference. You can go back and watch them again, or invite your friends over and have a conference watching party. This week on SkyWatchTV, a very special program. Nita Horn, who has lived an interesting life to say the least, talks about her new memoir, No Fences, and the incidents in her life that inspired her to write down her story. We'll also have details of an offer by Defender Publishing to tell your story in an anthology that will be published in time for Christmas. You can find out more about that by logging on to SkyWatchTV.com. Today is Wednesday. You'll see the program this afternoon on the Cornerstone Network, broadcast coast to coast at 2:30 p.m. Central Time, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. And if you miss it today, you can see it again at Victory Television Network Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Central, and the Christian Television Network coast to coast on satellite TV at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And of course, the program is available on demand at the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku. And if you haven't logged into our Roku channel lately, you should, because we've changed it up just a little bit. Here's the new front page. And you can see there's now a slot there specifically for Sci Friday and for the new program, Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck. So we're adding more content, more programming to the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku. If you've got one of those set-top boxes and need instructions on how to add the SkyWatch TV channel, you'll find them at skywatchtv.com/Roku. Television time, of course, is expensive, and so we depend on your support here at SkyWatch TV. In the month of March, for your donation of $20 or more, this DVD by Alan Keyes, former presidential candidate and United States ambassador, and Alan Sears, titled America's Courts, Progress and Peril, very timely with the recent passing of Justice Scalia. I know I called this a book earlier in the week. It is a DVD. And in addition to the DVD, this keepsake wall plaque, our gift to you for your donation of $20 or more while supplies last during the month of March. To donate, log on to skywatchtv.com/donate. And of course, you can help us too with a click of the mouse. You'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Click like, share, and subscribe. And when I post to the internet, it is here. Twitter, Facebook, my website. My email address, of course, for your comments, questions, and suggestions, dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. And thank you for watching. As we keep watch, I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.
From the time she was little, Nita dreamed of horses. Every childhood fantasy rode on the back of a heroic white steed, coming to save the day.
I don't know how long I've had this love in my heart for horses. It's just always been there. And when we were little girls, my sister and I would play all day long. I was always the white horse and she was always the little pink pig.
Let's pretend Lightning and Rosie can fly.
But everything changed in a heartbeat. On December 9th, 1971, a tragic car accident claimed the life of my dad and my best friend and my little sister. And I wondered after that if there was anything left to believe in.
Move aside, let the ambulance through. Please move aside.
As a child of 13, I felt like I had lost practically everything. And I wondered, is this it? I mean, where do I go from here? I could not have imagined back then how God could use horses, of all things, to restore my faith and vision for the future.
Starting April 19th, get your copy of Nita Horn's inspirational new book, No Fences, and learn for the first time her amazing story of loss, survival, determination, and healing. How the vision and love God gave her for these beautiful and majestic animals eventually led to the 150-acre Whispering Ponies Ranch, a general retreat facility, as well as a premier training location that specializes in using and gifting therapeutic animals to benefit the herding. Other care facilities, schools, and ministries across the nation.
When God puts something in your heart, it's there for a lifetime.